and realization what we spoken in the Vedanta, is it same? There's no way of knowing. Okay? Because there's no common reference in the terminologies. Right? I and you can speak because both of us understand English. If I say water, you will understand what is water. Because both of us come from the English background. The background is same. Okay. So now, in religion, everything in life is complicated if you don't have common background. I say something, you say something, right? So the boy says, I love you to the girl. Okay. What boy is trying to say is, you look beautiful. And probably he means that you look like a film star. That's the meaning of I love you. The girl says, I love you to the boy. That means you have a good bike. Understanding the I love you same. So even if you have common language, also the understanding is misunderstanding is there. Right? So the problem of communication becomes very difficult. Right? So what happens in spiritual teaching, that becomes much more complicated. It is very subtle. Okay. Inner experience you are trying to communicate. So inner experience of anybody cannot be communicated to others. It's not possible to communicate. So I love you. Then how much? This much? This much? This much? How do I tell you what is love means? Right? So how can it tell you what is devotion is? Okay, forget love and devotion. Somebody goes to a dentist. I have pain. How much pain? Lot of pain. Lot of pain. I'm crying. Right? Some people cry with a small pinprick. Pinprick is that they'll start crying as if something has whole world has fallen. Some people don't cry even if big injury is there. Right? So pain itself is subjective. What is subjective? You cannot communicate to other. And there's no instrument which you can measure. A dentist can see what happened to it, but it cannot measure how much pain is there. It's not possible. It's subjective. Right? See, even some small pain is that people will start crying. Whereas a person with a big pain can be smiling. In Kargil war, one soldier took 12 bullets. Okay. Still, with the 12 bullets, he went on and destroyed the enemy bunker. Indian soldier. He got Paramavira Chakra. Now, 112 bullets, forget 112, one pin goes into our head, we'll cry, and the whole world will fall on our head. So, what is subjective experience? You cannot express objectively. Very difficult. But for communication purpose, you have to tell. But when you tell, there's a lot of misunderstanding happens. Okay? Language is not common. The framework is not common. So then if I try to interpret what Mahavira teaches based on my Vedanta background, I will only superimpose my understanding on Mahavira, not Mahavira's understanding of teaching. So I don't know what Mahavira said, Jain said or not. Right? So my biases will creep in. That happens through any communication. That's why in Sanatana Dharma, where we call it Vedanta, Upanishad, Veda. Veda is the framework. Vedanta is the framework. In the Veda and Vedanta framework, the discussion happens. At least we have a common framework to discuss. Then we can say Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Advaita. We may not agree, but at least we understand what we are trying to say. But now if I use that to tell somebody else, that's only my understanding. For example, for me, peace means inner peace. My mind is silent. For another person, another background, peace means P-I-E-C-E, peace. So for another person with another background, peace means there's nobody other than me. So for me, the peace means I'm not there. For some other person in some other background, peace means nobody else is there other than me. So the words can be interpreted, misinterpreted. Understanding can be changed based on the background. Right? So from what I understand from Mahavira Jain background, he comes from a strong philosophy of yoga, Ashtanga yoga. He had a yogi background. That's why a lot of his sadhana is based on the yogic background. All that I can say is he comes from a yogic background, and his realization is in the context of yoga, which is dualistic system. That's what I understand. Right? So a discussion can happen with the framework. That's why we say Vedas are important, Upanishads are important, and we can discuss based on that. Otherwise, it will become personal discussion. So I'll come and say, I'm a great man. See, God came and talked to me personally. How do I verify you have talked to you personally or not? Understand? Then he'll say, no, believe me. If I don't believe you, I'll kill you. So what will I do? Okay. Then there will be some other people, then they'll start believing. So that person only talk to God directly. I have no way of understanding. All right. That's why in Sanatana Dharma, there is a checks and balances are given. Checks and balances is the realization of many masters together is collected in the form of Vedanta. Okay. So that's where I say, Eko Sat Vipraha Bhavadam Vadanti. One truth is that many rishis saw in different way, and they try to communicate in different way, but they are trying to say tell the same truth. That's called Vedanta. So it's actually called science of consciousness. Vedanta is science of consciousness. Okay. So then what is said is that tomorrow somebody comes and tells you, okay, I have realized God. So then very good, he has realized God. But is this personal truth or it's universal truth? If it's universal truth, it should be falling into the teachings of Vedanta. It should be in tune with science. Tomorrow somebody cannot come and say, I know something. So there's a check is introduced. The check is what you say is in the framework of Vedanta, which is science. Okay. So the person, there's a checks and balances are introduced in the system because of the framework. That's a framework, right? It is like a science teacher. That's a very brilliant science teacher. He says, all these scientists, what I have discovered is false. I am only finding new truth, new science. I am studying new science. So then how will you believe him? Okay. Then science, what is science actually? Science is many scientists have worked. It's not one person. Many scientists have contributed to the science. So all of them cannot be wrong. There is some truth in that. Somebody can come and say, I started new science. Then you can't trust this person. Right? So that's what happens in case of Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma is a framework given. So, and it says anybody can discover the truth. Okay. But what you discover the truth will fit into the framework. It cannot be totally out of the framework. Right? Others people are mentally distorted. They can create their own saying. There's a sect in Japan. So that sect leader, he says, I have realized truth. And there were tens and thousands of followers for him. So then he says, I have realized the absolute truth. So people don't have any way of knowing it. Right? There's no framework. There's no reference. Then he said, on this day, we have to commit suicide. Thousands of people commit suicide. Okay. So now, a distorted mind also say, I have realized the truth. Okay. So there's some checks and balances required. That's why in Vedanta says, any truth you speak will have a framework of Vedanta, science. And it says you can discover the truth. Okay. And you can communicate the truth also. But when you communicate, it should be in tune with science. It should be in tune with your experience. Okay. That's where a spiritual master in Sanatana Dharma is supposed to be Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Shrotriya means he should know the science of Vedanta, science of consciousness, where many rishis and many scientists have contributed. And Shrotriyam and Brahmanishta, he should have realized the truth. So then together, the combination is very beautiful. Then he can communicate. He can communicate stories, illustrations, but nothing will violate the science. Okay. We don't believe that truth can be, a new truth can be discovered. The truth discovered is always same. Communication can be different. But fundamentally, somebody cannot communicate. Otherwise, what happens? Mentally distorted people, they can come back and say something. and actually people take drugs like LSD, then they start seeing God everywhere and they communicate and speak. Okay, so it causes disturbance and havoc, right? That's where a checks and balances. You should know the science, Shrotriyam, and Brahmanish, you should realize. Then when you speak, it should be in harmony. That is the checks and balances in Sanatana. Now, that cannot be applied to different religions. Okay. For example, in Indian religion, there's a Jainism, there's Buddhism. So I don't know what relation you are speaking of. There's a framework is not same. You look peaceful. Okay. But there's some common things between us. Whether it's Jainism or Buddhism, they speak of karma theory. That's common. That I can understand. Okay. When you say relation, I don't understand what relation you're speaking of. Right? The framework is not same. And after this thing, if you go out of religion, other religions which don't have framework of Vedanta or karma theory, then we don't know what they're speaking. Right? So we can only try to understand some words which appear to be common, but words are always mystery. And all words are taken based on vasanas and impressions. Okay? Somebody says the teaching is love thy neighbor. Very beautiful teaching. So the complete teaching, love thy neighbor as yourself, is the complete teaching. As you love yourself, you love. So if you understand based on vasana, he will I will go and start loving the neighbor's wife. Understanding is correct. So the lot of gap is there in communication. Right? We need to be very careful when we try to discuss or argue or try to understand other people. That's why in India, if somebody studies Vedanta, before studying Vedanta, there are many years of study was required. So the study was what we call as Sanskrit language, then Nyaya Shastra. Nyaya Shastra means logically to understand the truth. So that what I speak and what you speak, both are same truths. Both of our logic should work in same way. Then we will understand the same truth. Otherwise, I say something, Guru says something, Shishya says understand some way. Right? So this is understanding. So I cannot answer the question whether Mahavira's relation is same as relation told in Vedanta. Same way I can't tell whether Buddha's relation is same as what was there in Vedanta. Yes, what Buddha told about karma applies to Vedanta. What Mahavira told about karma applies to Vedanta. But what relation is there, that's very difficult to compare because words will be misleading. Right? But some things Mahavira told appear to be very beautiful, but I can understand only in my framework. He said, Samyak Gnana, right understanding. I understand Samyak Gnana, but my understanding Samyak Gnana and Mahavira's teaching of Samyak Gnana, one and the same, I can't tell because the framework is not there. Is the answer clear? Gayatri, your question is answered. But only thing which I can tell from Mahavira's point of view is that Mahavira comes from what we call as background of strong yoga. Yoga is Advaita. So from that background he comes. That I can understand. Yes, Gayatri, is the question answered?
Yes, Guruji.
Anybody else has any questions? Why Triyam Brahmanisha is very important?
So I think earlier we discussed on realization of Buddha versus realization mentioned in the Vedanta.
Commonality, I can always understand relation from my framework and say it's same. But whether it's same, I cannot say because it has to be validated by other person. But he has no background of my own system. Okay. Because I told you, pitfalls in language, pitfalls in communication, pitfalls in explanations. There are a lot of pitfalls. And anything I can understand only with my framework. Are we clear? Anybody has a question? Hi, Elric.
ಇದು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮನಿಷ್ಠ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಶ್ರೋತ್ರಿಯ ಆಗಿಲ್ದಲೆ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇನ್ನೂ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಾನ ಅರ್ಥ.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ,
ಬ್ರಹ್ಮನಿಷ್ಠ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ.
no. See, the question is somebody is Brahmanishta but not Shrotriya. Okay. So Shrotriya doesn't mean that he understands and explains, he understands everything in Sanskrit. He understands, he has knowledge of all the Upanishads. No, it doesn't mean that. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa didn't study any Vedas. Didn't study any Upanishads. But he will teach in a very simple way through small stories. And these small stories will be perfectly matching with what the Vedantic teaching is all about. So, Shrotriya doesn't mean somebody who has knowledge of every word and it's like he is educated in Vedants. Shrotriya means one who has understood the essence of Vedants. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa didn't know any Upanishads. But what he spoke never violated any Upanishad. Essence of Upanishad only spoke through stories. In fact, what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said is called Vachana Veda, scripture. Okay. So when I say Shrotriya, doesn't mean that somebody who is able to give all Sanskrit words, but he should have understood the science of Vedanta. How he understood? Maybe he has done in past life or past life. He has understood. Right? But when he explains, he doesn't violate his science. See, I had a primary school teacher. He is not a PhD, but he is able to explain scientific concept very beautifully. Taking a rubber ball, he will explain something, right?
See.
Okay, like that. Now, a Shrotriya doesn't mean somebody has studied Vedas, able to by heart Vedas, give quotations. Somebody who has understood the essence of Vedas. And when he speaks, he doesn't violate the Vedic understanding framework. Okay. So now that is the Brahmanishta, but not he is Shrotriya only. Doesn't mean that he has studied Vedas and all. He has understood the essence of Vedas. That's why he is Shrotriya only. Okay. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is Shrotriya only, great Shrotriya only. But there are some Mahatmas who have done some realization, but they are not able to teach also. They say, if you go them, okay, blessings. Atma Dhnana has to be taught in a very systematic way. Otherwise, it will be misunderstood. Okay. So now this person is not able to teach. So you go him, he is realized. If he is realized, there is a peace with him and he has a harmony. So then you take a blessing. It's called Santa, saint.
Okay.
A saint is helpful for you, blessing. Probably if you don't have a child, you will get a child. And if you have a child, you'll get a male child only. Something will happen. Blessing will happen in your life. Okay. In the presence of Santa. But to get Atma Dhnana, you need somebody who is Shrotriya and Brahmanishta. Somebody who is able to explain very, very clearly. There's no confusion. Right?
Clarity in explanation will come only with the clarity of his standpoint in Brahman, right, Guruji?
Correct. Yes. So that standpoint may be by formal study of Vedas, or he has studied Veda in some lifetime. In this lifetime, he is only able to communicate. That's also okay.
Okay, Guruji, batai.
Are you clear?
Batai.
See, it's very difficult to follow and trust people who say, I have discovered truth. This is my truth. That's called personal truth. There are many such Jnanis also who speak of their personal truth. Very difficult to trust and appreciate them. So what happens is that people in India have a instinctive faith in the Guru. Now they don't understand that Guru has to be Shrotriya and Brahmanishta, and he should live a life of Brahmanishta. I may be Brahmanishta, but if I don't live that life, then teaching is not valid. You have to realize the truth and you have to live the truth. Then you are an open book. If somebody is Shrotriya, Brahmanishta, but he doesn't live the truth, then how do you trust that person? Are we clear? A Brahmanishta, a realized person, his life itself is the truth. His life itself is living truth. Then only is Brahmanishta. Then we can trust. So will you trust a person who speaks something and he doesn't talk, he speaks something and does something else? You cannot trust. So this is about truth, no? There may be very people who are reading some Vedanta study, and I understand Vedanta. I can talk, but are they living? Is their life inspiring you? Then only he can be called a Sadguru. Are we clear? Vasuki?
ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಗುರುಜಿ, ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು.
Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? Gayatri? Pratibha?
This happens only with the grace, na Guruji. Understanding whatever it is, only with the grace, na Guruji.
Understanding what is grace, I'll tell next question.
Okay, Guruji.